My phones are not aligned. No, now it's 15. Okay. Okay. Confirmation. I think the sheet went around with the voting sheet has gone around. And I don't think there's anyone here, but we did say that we were going to make a practice of saying, just announcing that we have public comment at every meeting for our policy. However, the board listens but doesn't respond to public comment, and each person has 3 minutes to speak, and we will have a minimum of 30 minutes allowed, but that's could be longer in the discretion of the chair. Not that we were just advised we should say this every time, so that's why I'm saying it, even though there's no one here. I haven't completely lost my mind. Yeah. Okay, so approval of minutes of 21 October 2024.
So moved.
I don't know who said that, but I said something. I got it. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to reports and updates. We have the superintendent report.
So happy November, everyone. Just a reminder of our service promise is that we promise to interrupt educational inequities and create schools where every child and staff member thrives, one conversation at a time. Our November student enrollment is down by 8 from last month. You will notice that we no longer have students in Frenchboro, and I shared that before. Those last 2 students that moved off and are now at the Pematic School. And so I'm working with that board as we sort of think about the future of the Frenchboro School, and we'll be utilizing the Island Institute in support and sort of thinking about what it might look like moving forward. And we've had some students leave. At the high school, I think it was around 5, and at one of the elementary schools, we lost another 3 for a variety of reasons. It goes up and down. Our staffing update: we are still looking for speech and language pathologists at some of our schools. 20% GT person, behavior interventionist over at Tremont. Special education teacher needs. We had an opening, unfortunately, for our data support special education admin assistant, and always looking for ed tech 3s, bus drivers, coaches, substitute teachers, and at the high school and AOS and CES custodian. And always on this slide, there is the link to all the employment opportunities that exist in the district. That's at the bottom. I did want to share is that I linked a flyer for MDIRSS employee bus driver training. I'm working with Warren, who is able to sort of teach bus driving, and he is working with a local school. And what we were able to do is in this round, he still has some certifications to go, is that he can teach bus driver training. And so this would be for any employees in the AOS. I think we put the flyer out on Thursday or Friday. We already have, I think, 10 folks throughout the district who are interested. And those folks would be able to do some of the trip driving that occurs. And sometimes that's always difficult to find folks to do the extracurricular and after school activities. And so having more people to choose from, hopefully by the end of the summer, Warren will have his ability to be able to teach here kind of through a school, and then to start to put that out for people who may want to do some of our route drivers. And, we're desperately going to be in need of route drivers at a couple of our schools. We're still down at Mount Desert. And so the need for folks who want to be able to drive routes will just sort of decrease as the year goes by. But this is sort of the first step, and this at least gets that extracurricular folks and any of the after school trips sort of taken care of, and that we have a bunch of drivers for that. So I appreciate Warren sort of putting that out there. And as a district, we're gonna pay for that for those individuals. I think it's about $2,800, and we're using some of our continuing education funds, within the schools to be able to do that. So that's exciting. To get like 9 people within the first 24 hours, and I think we're above that, above 10. Some of our school highlights from across the districts. Matt had mentioned the cross country girls were state champs. The high school hosted Sing Day to do a district wide chorus with the folks from the middle schools coming on up and singing. The MDI drama presented Chicago. They began it this past weekend and then will continue next weekend, Friday and Saturday. I'm hoping to be here next Friday to see Chicago. The environmental science class here at the high school, I think it's Ruth Poland's class, has been exploring the impacts of climate change on infrastructure and the environment around the island. And members of BEAM participated in a team building activity at Camp Beechcliff. And that is the Black Emotional and Mental Health team. And then you'll see later on that they were also down and met with the folks at Connors Emerson, kids at Connors Emerson. BIPOC, yeah. Ashley Bryan School, they did their fall TLC trip to the Gould Academy. So that's all of the island schools within Maine. They get together a couple times a year through the Teaching and Learning Collaborative, where the kids get together and meet. They do book groups together during the school year where they Zoom. But this is an opportunity for them to come together as a community and sort of share their experiences at their island schools and do activities together and become friends. Students Zoomed with author Anna Crowley, who read her book Courage Like Kate, and she actually read that. They were supposed to go to Swans Island with some others and read that book, and it's about a lighthouse keeper. And she read the book while she was at the Swans Island Lighthouse, and then it was Zoomed to the folks at Cranberry. They were supposed to come over and take a boat trip, but the weather was just a little too much. The sunbeam can be a little bouncy at certain times, so we decided not to put the kids through that. And then at Boatworks, I talked about the Boatworks experience that they do on Fridays, and where they learn how to do hands-on activities, particularly with wood. Last year they built a shed. This year they were working on a mobile shop that they're calling the Spot. And if you've ever been to Islesford and you sort of walk up, there's a little triangle where the road sort of splits, and right in there you'll often see children selling their wares that they make at home during the summertime. So they built a little storefront at the Boatworks, and it looks really awesome. And they put a used sail on the roof as part of to be the roof material. So in the summer, get a chance to go out there and you can buy something from the Spot, and you have a story to tell. At Frenchboro, as you know, on November 4th, the last day for those students. The board will be meeting with folks at the Island Institute to talk and discuss about ideas. There's some islands that have lost students but have regular boat transportation, have created STEM opportunities and little academies for surrounding communities to go out to. Who knows what the possibilities can be, and you never know if families may move on to the island to lobster, and so there could be a lot of opportunities, and we'll be meeting through the rest of this year to sort of talk about that for the Frenchboro School. Over at Connors Emerson, they had their Spirit Week, and one of the key pieces, and some of the board members could probably share, was the rock, paper, scissors contest that happened one of the days. And I guess Peter Alley was the one who won all
it's
of
under
the
review.
and he seems to win a lot. And they're in need, as you know, Connors Emerson's going through a building project. So you have a brand new building being built right in between the two schools that are existing there. I can't imagine what it would have been like to farm all those 300 plus kids out around the community and try to do school. And even though it can be loud and a little dusty at time, one of the things that they're trying to do is with some of these spirit weeks is to, remember that even though there's construction going on, there's still a lot of joy in teaching and learning. They had a great groundbreaking ceremony where there was a student from each grade that got to their golden shovel to start that process. They have student solutionary projects going on in 8th grade, and I'll talk a little bit about that in Teacher's Spotlight later on. And the Beam students visited the middle school, and 4th grade held a poetry slam. Over in Trenton, the 7th grade read occurred at Camp Beechcliff, and 7th graders from Trenton, as well as from across the island, were reading Greetings from the Witness Protection with Jake Burt and had those activities there. The boys cross country team took first place and the girls were runner up for the middle school cross country. The advanced band performed on the outdoor stage during the costume parade. If you've ever been to Trenton, right behind the building, if you go back, they have a beautiful outdoor stage built on the left side of the playground. If you ever get a chance to drive up 51 School Road and so check that out, you can see the neat things that went on there. And grade 3 went up and visited the planetarium in Oregon. Over at Pematic, 4th graders as well as 4th graders from around the island, the Criterion did a showing of Lost on a Mountain in Maine. So that was a great experience for all of our kids throughout the district. Students in grade 2 presented their Zentangles in an art show at the school library. Students in grade 7 and 8 are building guitars. And that was a collaboration that's going on between art, music, and tech. And they actually had a little side trip to the Hinckley Boatyard on Friday when I was there. And they were just sort of coming back just to see some of that composite building material. But all of those kids are building their own guitars and they're going to learn how to play. So really excited to sort of see that task completed. And the Southwest Harbor police officer, Sergeant Ryan Blakely, visited 3rd grade and they asked him all kinds of questions about his job as a police officer and all the particular parts of his uniform. Over on Swans, like I said, author Anna Crowley was there and read her book, Courage Like Kate, and they did that from the lighthouse there. Michelle Witham, the middle school teacher, participated in a solutionary workshop. And solutionaries is a professional development opportunity where you work on problem solving with students, where they ask the questions and then come up with solutions to problems that are important to them. And a bunch of our teachers around the district are utilizing that platform to engage students in problem solving within their communities. Grades 3 through 8, we're working on conflict resolution with their guidance classes, and PE has been doing some of the pictures for the newsletter that have gone out from Swans on flag football have been pretty wonderful to see the kids. It's all the rage. The kids are really enjoying themselves, learning the rules, and then playing the sport. Over in Mount Desert, again, solutionaries popping up all over during October, and they were working on a project on single-use plastics. They had recently hired Jalen Winstanley as their science teacher. As you know, they couldn't find someone for the position for this past semester. They had an online organization come and do their middle school science, but Jalen is starting up this month, in the middle of the month. He's coming to us from Schoodic Science Institute and did a lot of teaching with Sea Camp. So he will know some of those kids.
Does he have housing yet?
I don't know that yet. Kindergarten has been learning about owls, and 3rd and 4th grade students went up to the Collins Center to experience a bilingual music experience, Sugar Skulls, about the day it did down in Mexico. And so they were up at the Collins Center with their world language. And then over in Tremont, grade 7 students went on their annual trip to Quebec. The students in grade 6 attended Sea Camp, and the school celebrated Custodial Appreciation Day. And students for Veterans Day, they have a tradition at Tremont where students provide care packages and meals to local veterans. And so it's really wonderful to sort of hear what each individual school does in terms of highlighting veterans in the community. In Trenton, they usually had, they combined their Thanksgiving and Veterans meal together this year. So it was nice that our office had an opportunity, as we usually go over Thanksgiving, but it also incorporated veterans, and we heard the fourth graders share some wonderful poems while we were there eating. So that was neat. And so those are some of the highlights from our schools around the district. In terms of budget time, you can go through there and see that, we've done our preliminaries here at the AOS. We'll be doing our first draft of that budget tonight. The high school did its preliminary budget tonight. Connors Emerson has already run through their first draft. And I think everybody but, most people have gone through their preliminary budget. We still have Pematic and Frenchboro to do. And so if you need a place to go to remember where we are, then you can come back to here and sort of see where we are in our budget process in the district. For just regular highlights across the district, Julie will talk a little bit about this, but we had our first Vision of a Graduate session over in Trenton. The next one is at the high school. That'll be at 5 p.m. on December 2nd. And Matt sort of talked about the 3 articles. I didn't know there were 3, so now I'm going to have to go read The Hill. But 2 articles were recently written by Ed Week and the Christian Science Monitor around the teaching of our elections. And the Christian Science Monitor article is about a variety of places around the country where that was going on. And then they also talked to our students here. The Ed Week article is specific about the experience of the students here at the high school. So if you get a chance to search for those, that would be great. Emory grants were handed out to 8 teachers within the district for projects that enhance science education in our schools. And then I wanted to highlight the organization Live Work in Maine donated Wicked Joe's Coffee, a special blend, to schools across the entire state. And it was basically a thank you to teachers and to celebrate that the work that they do. So there's coffee in all of our schools now that came from the Live and Work in Maine group, who are just trying to highlight and encourage people to come to Maine and work across different areas, education sectors, and healthcare and elsewhere. And so they're trying to really highlight jobs that are going on. For our staff highlight, I wanted to highlight Heather Dorr, who's the principal at Mount Desert. She's not here tonight because she's meeting with part of the Transformational Leader Program. She was asked by the group from the DOE to be a facilitator of that group to support her fellow principals in doing the hard work of moving schools forward. So that's really exciting, types of leaders that we draw to our district. Wanted to highlight Ruth Poland here at the high school. She was accepted by the U.S. Department of Energy to be part of the Renew American Schools project, looking at making our schools more sustainable. Jaylene Roth, she's a middle school science social studies teacher at Connors Emerson. And a lot of our teachers have seen many surveys coming from 8th graders from Connors Emerson, and they've been doing solutionary projects as they're trying to dig into issues around, with teachers in schools have been some of the questions that they have been asking. I also wanted to give a shout out to Jacob and Matt, the MBI music teachers. They, with the orchestra and also the kids of the orchestra, put together sort of a musical interlude of spooky music, kind of Halloween themed for the staff and the students in the sunroom, and they did a great job. It was awesome to go down and sit in to listen to them. And then I wanted to highlight Laura Wenger, who is the teacher at Frenchboro, who needs to move on because of the changes in what's happening at Frenchboro and those students. And I have a lot of gratitude for the work that she's done on Frenchboro. Teaching on an unabridged island, especially one that's 8 miles offshore, takes a lot of grit, creativity, and passion. And she had all of that. And her commitment to the community and to its children ran deep, and I wish her well as she moves on. She she lives in Vinyl Haven, but would always come up for the school year to teach up here. And she's looking for positions down there, and I wish her all the best in the rest of her year. And then for reorganization, we had a meeting last week, and where we sort of set aside our the question of debt. I think we have a little more work in sort of digging around on that and speaking to some more people. And so at our last meeting, the last half was taking a look at the school organizational model, pre-K through 8, and spent a lot of time looking at the 4 models that were presented to the AOS back in January of 23, I believe, yes. And sort of thinking about ways of improving that. And there was another model floated, and you can go to the AOS website and sort of take a look at that. I think we put that below the last one so that it was out there. Our next meeting on the 11th is going to be to really focus and sort of choose the model that we would then sort of share out. But again, I want to say I thought the meetings, we put together sort of a rubric of what were the things were sort of the important issues that we needed to solve for, and spend a little time sort of listing across all of the communities what that looks like within our district, and then measured that against our models, and then kind of voted about which ones we wanted to look at. We came up with what's Model 1, which has been talked about quite a bit, and then Model 5, which is sort of a new one that we still need to flesh out a little bit. Folks can go to the website and sort of take a look at what that looks like. But again, I think the conversations that we're having are wonderful and respectful and thoughtful. Anybody who's on the RPC, if you want to share, feel free. But we did a lot of work and still have some to go, but it's been really good. Quick legislative update. So Social Security Fairness Act, just want folks to know that that is the issue around the Social Security provision, that where if you were a police officer or a teacher or others within the state of Maine, there was this, they call it a windfall provision, and you wouldn't get some of the Social Security that you may have earned over years before you started another job. And so this Fairness Act has come up many times over the years. I think it's been talked about at this body multiple times. It actually passed the House and is off to the Senate. I've already spoken to our senators who are both supportive of this. Angus King and I believe Susan Collins were co-authors in years past in sort of pushing this. So we'll see where that goes. But that has been years and years in the making. And I did hear the board passed the resolve on IDEA to look for funding. And actually, Senator King's office phoned me to talk about that and anything else I wanted to share with him. So I spent some time on the phone and shared things with Senator King's office and received an email from Congressman Golden's office in support of more funding around IDEA. So it was nice to receive something back from our legislators once you put it out there. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that. And then for the school board corner, I wanted to share something that we talked about at our superintendent's meeting, and it's a new organization called Maine Loves Public Schools. It's something that's come out of the DOE. It's actually board members from across the state that are looking at highlighting the wonderful things that are happening in Maine schools. And they're really making a push and partnering with the DOE to start sharing stories about the great work that goes on here. Oftentimes we hear the negative things that are happening around schools, and this organization is working really hard, made up of community members and fellow board members from throughout the state. And some of the educational organizations that are supporting them are the Maine School Board Association, Superintendents Association, the MEA, the MPA, the Maine Curriculum Leaders Association. And so, if you go to their website, you could look at ways to help sort of share highlighting stories that are going on in our schools. And so the whole idea for the organization is just promoting trust and engagement in our public schools. And so we had a presentation from the superintendents, from their board member in RSU 5, which is the Freeport area, about the work they're doing and to try to highlight. And so I wanted to make sure that I shared that with all of you. I think they probably did a presentation at the annual school board meeting that was back in October. But I want to make sure that folks here have an opportunity to see the work that they're doing, and I may share more over the next couple of months. All right, that's it.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mike? Okay. Moving on to directors of teaching and learning. Linda and Julie.
We didn't plan this, but I feel like Mike queued me up really well because I'm going to be talking about the vision of a graduate. And part of that is about promoting trust and engagement in our public schools. So good segue. We had our first vision of the graduate conversation. Just a reminder, the vision of the graduate is just our process that we're going through to kind of capture the hopes and dreams of our communities, right? Our schools are servicing our communities, but it's been a long time since we've had real conversations with the people we serve. And so best way to do it is to just invite them and have conversation, bring snacks, construct some prompts to get conversation going, little inspirational video to get get the emotions running, and then let people talk and then share their thoughts. And then we capture their thoughts, and that's data. And we're starting to type up data from those conversations, and our intent is to go into every school this year. I don't have all the dates lined up yet. We intentionally are going slow because in case first meeting didn't go so well, we wanted to have a little time to adjust and get some feedback and then make any needed changes. But we do have our next conversation scheduled for December 2nd at the high school, 5 p.m. For this conversation, we expect a bigger audience. It's a bigger, space. We've reached out to community partners. We're still not done reaching out to community partners. We've had some community partners already confirmed that they're coming. Jackson Lab has confirmed. COA has confirmed. I'm still working on that, but we have some time. We've got a few weeks here, but we're getting the word out. But I was hoping I could invite Trenton to share a little bit about what it was like and what that experience was like. So.
Sure, thank you. So as Julie mentioned, we watched a video and then we kind of had an open discussion, and that really got our thinking caps on, and it made for a really great, productive conversation. We even had some interactive activities lined up where she gave us the prompt. It was kind of a step one, here's our topic, and here's some questions I have for you. Partnered up and we went around the room and we wrote down each thought we had around our ideas, and we were really excited for this opportunity because we cannot wait to see the results. We love data too. So it's going to be really interesting to see the common denominators between each school and then also meet the individual needs of each school and different demographics and needs. So I'm really excited. I could tell you two are really jazzed about this. They're very invested. Like gourmet snack table. So if you don't get that, we went first and we're done. But it was really interactive. It was really great. I really appreciated the groups of two because it was kind of just us bouncing ideas off each other and then seeing what everybody had. It was like, oh, I didn't think of that. So having different views of some people don't have kids in the school, some did, some have graduating kids. So it was really great to get the lenses of many people in our community of what a vision of a graduate should look like.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just had the best time, and thought, why haven't we done this?
It was actually fun.
Yeah. And so we're thinking about how to blow this up to scale now with a bigger group. So we're brainstorming ways because the two might be a little more difficult with a lot of people that we hope will come. On the 2nd, we are planning on having one in MDIRSS in January. I don't have a date yet, but I'll continue to post and announce it. So if you can't come on the 2nd, that's okay. You can also come to another one. Every note will have the date, time, and location. So we'll be updating along the way. But that's pretty much our presentation for tonight. We're really fully invested in that work at this time, and I'm happy to entertain questions.
Have you done this before?
No. I've participated in, we work with, Great Schools Partnership. It's a, consulting group that helps schools. And, last spring we went to a conference and I made sure I signed up for the Vision of a Graduate session and, went through a mini process with other folks and then learned how other districts did it. So, learned a little bit there and replicated, components of it. So, yes.
I'd love to hear a little bit about why it matters for the community to weigh in on their vision of a graduate and how it will direct effect, or if it will, what happens with your work.
Yeah. Oh, and that's probably the most important part that I didn't address. So we left feeling really excited because very often we go to our teachers and say, we notice some shifts happening or we need to make some changes here. It feels like it's us personally, making that decision. And it was really, really powerful to be hearing from people in the community say, no, I'm noticing this and I see this. And really very simple things like, we had one person share, whenever there's a person who comes into the workspace at their place of work, they run in the back room. They don't want to have a conversation with a client, right? And so like conversation was a theme that came up, right? So we have tried to push deliberate instruction in conversation and it gets drowned out by the other competing things, right? Well, we have to learn how to read. They have to learn how to do that. But to be here, I'll be curious, and this might just be a one shot here, but if there is a true pattern that we're seeing and having strong verbal communicators with interpersonal skills is in the vision of the graduate, then we have something to do about it. So we're kind of looking for our charge, to be honest. And we're also looking to educate our community because I think there was some eye-opening, I didn't see that, maybe these changes are coming for our kids' experiences and how are they going to, what skills do they need to exist in a fast changing world, right? And being mindful to tend to heart, mind, spirit, body, right? Like all the components, the whole child. So, and that was my takeaway. I needed to recircle around on that one because we got lost a little bit in the technology piece. And I know that Jessica has brought that up the last time we talked about it. So we've shifted it up a little bit to make sure we don't lose that. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah, I have lots of questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? I'm just going to piggyback on what Carrie said earlier in a prior meeting, not so much about classes, but I hope there continues to be a focus on the civics, not like in the terms of like, these are the three branches of government or this is the whatever, but like, and not just people who take AP government or AP history or whatever, but like, ask, like, what is the point of a society? Like, why do taxes exist and what are the ways that we can pay them and what are the benefits and drawbacks of different forms and like, how does a plural group of people learn to live and like make decisions together? Like, so I just hope that continues to be something that's on the table for all like middle school students, not just selected.
You're coming to one of the meetings, right?
Yeah. Just giving my feedback on how I like here.
And that I heard those types of items in our discussions. And if anything, I think we're going to leave feeling a lot more connected than disconnected.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that it's formulated. I'm thinking about how you're reaching all voices and making sure you're hearing from all different groups, especially those who may not want to be coming in, but have a lot that would be important to hear.
I guess we're problem solving that along the way. I mean, I wasn't really thrilled with our Trenton turnout. And I put it out there like, we can come back. Like, so we just wanted to get it going, right? Like just start the practice of having these conversations. And, you know, our service promise is real. It's like one conversation at a time and just establishing lots of spaces where we can have deliberate conversations is what we're shooting for. And if we step back and say, we've got some voices missing here, we'll work on it for sure. We also are going to be doing work with our students too. So we're gonna bring them in and do some vision of the graduate work with them too. You're welcome. We're gonna do this all year.
Any other,
Year-long project.
any other questions?
Oh, we have it all on video, by the way. Did I mention that? Okay, so we're videotaping them all. We're gonna put together a little montage. So when we open school next year, and we have our final product, we want it to be a celebration and people can kind of see where all this happened in different spaces.
Okay. Very good, thank you. And hopefully we'll be able to see when these, well, people want to know when the things are, they should look in the note.
Well, every school is posting it in their newsletters for the local ones, but I'm also putting them in the notes. So yes, next one, December 2nd.
Okay, draft budget for one. Just go see.
I don't know.
Yes.
Did you get that?
Donated halfway.
There.
There's your copy, and then there's the rest of these for that. There's just more extras.
So now that everybody has the budget review sheet and actual budget, get started. So on the top of my review sheet, I like to have the timeline for everybody so you can see what's upcoming. And I'll jump into the summary right away. And because there's some big numbers there, and I know Matt sort of talked about how we building the high school budget, and in building this budget, there's actually some things that aren't in here that we think are needed in terms of elevating the teaching and learning and that happens in our schools. But I wanted to be able to make sure I had sort of the core of what was needed moving forward, and I'll sort of share sort of the reasons behind it as we go through each of the cost centers that are in the AOS budget. Start off with the revenue summary. We have our carryover. We are budgeting to carry over 87,000. We're going to say about 100,000 because you never know what can happen within the course of the year. So we always want to make sure that we save some out. When you look across the assessment, and I'll just say it, so the assessment to schools would be up 24% if this is the budget that we pass. That's, $594,000 more than what it was last year. The total revenue, so the budget to budget would be a 22% increase, or about $630,000. So what makes up that big difference? So I'll sort of start with the Office of Curriculum. And so this sheet just sort of goes along. So you could either, that revenue summary, covers the top sheet of the budget. And then when you turn over, that next section of the budget is student and staff support. And then our budget, that's the Office of Curriculum. So that's our curriculum directors and their administrative assistant. And that budget is up 7.64%, and that's basically salaries and benefits for the individuals within there. Everything else within that budget pretty much sort of stayed the same. When you get to system administration, well, that's my office, the Office of Operations and Transportation, and the business office, which and the sort of folks that make up the Office of the Superintendent are the superintendent, the business manager, the superintendent assistant, and the 3 finance managers that sort of support the schools. And so part of that $210,000 difference, that 21% between last year and this year, is made up by the addition of an HR personnel. Again, that's coming back around. I think conversations have been had at multiple levels in terms of the need of someone in HR to sort of take off some of the responsibilities from the business office, and really myself, in terms of functioning, in terms of understanding leaves and helping folks with family medical leave and a variety of issues that sort of pop up within managing 400 staff across the district. And so I put what that cost might be if they were to remain in the budget, about $118,000. The other part that's in there, I'll start first with, is the bus coordinator. So that's, Warren. If you remember, I kind of split the AOS operations position into 2, and we hired Scott Watson, who's part of his position is doing the high school and supporting all of the schools, and then using the other part of that money to support having a bus coordinator, and that would be Warren. And we would cover that with the existing salary, and would need to add the $33,000, which would sort of cover the Blue Cross and Blue Shield at the AOS level. But I can say, from the inception of Scott starting and Warren working through this past beginning of school, I think has been a wonderful thing from principals in terms of the support that they're getting from our transportation coordinator now, and the fact that, and then in thinking of operations, the amount of work that's been getting done at some of our island schools and connections that Scott is already making with principals to sort of pull, the whole idea of that position was to pull some of those major projects off their shoulders. And I, like I said, in these last beginnings of school, have just heard great things in terms of actually seeing things get done. And that's the most important thing for me. And so that difference within our salary is that in that system administration is the salary and benefits of all of those staff, and then the addition of the HR, and then the addition of the bus coordinator to cover the benefit side. For technology, the technology, that's our tech coordinator, and we have an educational lead, the tech lead, network manager at 40%, and the database manager. And most of that 10%, that 43,000, is the salary increases and benefit increases for that staff. And then when you turn over the page, special education, our special education office currently, that office is psychological service providers, our 1.5 admin assistant, our special education directors, Kathy and Melissa, the OT and PT services that we provide, and the social worker. And you can see in that line, that cost center, that's the largest increase, and I want to explain those pieces. And so, of course, there's the salary and benefits going forward. Right now, we have 2 occupational therapists, and they have limits on the total number of clients or the caseload that they're able to manage. And they are at that cap. And as we're thinking about moving forward and taking on 3 and 4-year-olds that will happen in 2028, we need to prepare ourselves to start managing that need, I think, now. Part of that is just starting to build some of that infrastructure and recognizing that right now, CDS is supposed to sort of cover those needs for our 3 and 4-year-olds. And right now, there's about 30 of those children that are out there. And what's going to happen in terms of the CDS rollover is we're going to have to start providing those OT services coming from our personnel, because there's really not those personnel out within our service district. If you look across the state of Maine in the different service districts for CDS, the issues of equity are different. In Southern Maine, they have some of those people to be able to support those schools. Certainly in our area for years, the CDS has been really difficult to find those folks, whether it's physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and language, or just general sped services for 3 and 4-year-olds. So that's one piece of that increase that you see there. The second part is an assistant director for early childhood through grade 3 or 4. That is thinking of that ramp up and being able to manage our pre-K students. And when you sort of think about it, we are going to have to identify our 3 and 4-year-olds. That individual is going to need to go to all of those meetings and begin to work on developing those plans. They're actually going to have to start looking at 2-year-olds within our catch area and sort of see where they are, because they're eventually going to be coming into our schools. I personally think the model is better that we're trying to move towards, but it certainly means that schools across the state are going to be picking up a greater share of supporting that. And in some of those districts that are more rural, it's going to come down to the schools and the folks that they have available to do PTOT and to provide those case management services for those students moving in. I think that's going to be, I'm sure you've all heard at your local school boards where schools that have pre-K, is there have been some struggles with behaviors and needs. And part of that has, I think, been that the system that we've had has not worked as well as it could have. I think what we want to do is to try to create a system that effectively meets the needs of those kids that are coming into our schools. And to do that, we need to be planning now so we're ready for 2028. There are some schools that are in what they're calling cohort 1 to try to start trying this out. We did not join that cohort, and neither did any of the schools within our area in Hancock County. I don't see us joining cohort 2 as we sort of prepare. I think that we want to make sure that the infrastructure is in place to start bringing in those students and making sure we're supporting them. And we're not only supporting them in our schools. We have a lot of daycares that are throughout our region, and part of the work of this person would be connecting to those daycares and ensuring that testing is taking place and case managing some of those pieces. So I definitely see that as a need. And part of that then goes into the administrative support. And right now we have 1.5 of a person sort of helping for the 318 SPED students that our office now deals with. We have 126 504 kids that group is managing, and to be able to make sure that we're following through on the intake for those 3 and 4-year-olds, moving that position that has been half-time for full-time, I think will be really important. So those are the biggest pieces for that increase, and I wanted to be able to sort of share those. It's people, and it's being able to meet the needs that are coming down the pike, for all of our schools. And when we think about 2028, Bar Harbor will be built, and then we'll be bringing in the pre-Kers into that building. Just thinking of the way we're organized right now, that'll be important to have the infrastructure behind that, being able to identify those 3 and 4-year-olds with special needs and make sure that they're getting the services they need. So even when before they come to our school, we have a good sense of who they are, what their needs are, and hopefully meet some of them prior to entering school. But once they get into school, that they'll have the support that they need, and the teachers will have the support that they need by someone whose focus is within that realm. And then I'll take questions after I finish going over the AOS reserves. And so, currently we have over $800,000 in our projected balance for the end of June 2025 will be $800,000. We capped out, so schools are no longer putting into the special ed reserve at the district level. That's all done because that is capped at once you hit $750,000, and right now it's just growing on interest. Our deductible coverage will be at around $15,603, and the curriculum fund by the projected balance at 6/30/25 will be $28,998. And then on the sheet there, and it won't be until a budget is passed that we'll have the assessment for each of the schools. Remember last year, at the end of the budget, that I had that little breakdown so folks can sort of see that. But what I put there is just a reminder of what the AOS assessment calculation is, so you know how we come up with that. So that's a lot to swallow. I think for right now, the 2 budgets that we have presented to boards right now, I think we put in 15% as an AOS increase. And so that will need to be, well, I mean, I have some work to do, but
And depending on their percentage.
and depending on their percentage also depends on, the calculation in terms of, what each school will have to do to support AOS.
I think you started this off by saying this doesn't include everything. What do you think that percentage is really gonna be by the time we do see it?
Well, I'm not going to add anything to this. I'm just saying that, we were sort of talking, we were thinking about adding a math coach. We have seen the work of our literacy coach really do some really good coaching for tier 1 instruction within all of our schools, and really being able to move the needle on instruction for literacy and really effective tier 1 instruction. I think if you were to poll teachers to sort of ask about the work that they have been doing and really supporting the work of teachers, that would have been, you would have seen high marks. We know that math is an issue in our district in terms of the experience kids are having, in terms of what we're looking at on our scores. Our scores are our only pieces to look at. But it's an important aspect of sort of understanding what our kids are understanding prior to getting to high school, and making sure that they have the full experience and are able to take advantage of the opportunities that are here. And so adding a math coach would be an important aspect of moving the needle on math instruction, across the district. And we didn't put that in the budget. And I can't remember, when you think about sort of effect size in terms of what helps them sort of move the needle. I didn't write it down, Rhonda. I don't know if you had it on the top of your head, but John Hattie has done quite a bit of work on taking a look at what aspects of schools programming or things that you put in place have an actual effect size on, the outcomes for students.
0.51.
It was 0.51, which is,
Sure.
what's that? Yeah, it's pretty significant. And then the largest one, in terms of Hattie, is the teacher efficacy, and that is the ability. And I think that what we're trying to do with our model of common studies and teacher leadership is trying to build that efficacy and common understanding within those teams. That'll take a little bit while to grow, but I think that effect size was
1.3.
1.3. And so that work is really important when you're thinking about bringing a group of students to another single institution where they're going to, pick up where they all come from. If you're able to develop and create some efficacy within your teachers, that's that's a great thing and something that we're working on. That's Jessica. The one thing that I didn't add, but was something that was on the table when we were going through the process of thinking about what's in and what's not.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You'll return.
Definitely, yeah. I'll be spending some time with my team and speaking with principals before we come back. And if you notice anything as you go through line by line, I'd be happy to sit down with folks and talk. But I wanted to make sure you had the overview and then you have the line by line budget to then bounce that off.
Hey, support staff collective bargaining team.
So I wanted to make sure we're hoping to start bargaining in December. I'm still in communication with Amy, who's the NEA rep for the support staff. And I wanted to make sure I solidified our team, and then I sent a note out to Tom, who's our support at Drummond and Woodson, to think about a meeting with just the board team. And right now I have Jessica, Susan, Shep, and Lily to be a part of that. And I was looking for one more member from either Committee or, it's like potentially Mount Desert, or who am I missing? Trenton potentially. They are.
They are,
Yes. We solved that with the summer. Someone can write me a note if you want. You can sort of think about it, or you can reach out to Jessica or Susan or Brian. And so
He's not here.
Jared is.
Because I know where it is today. We'll make him feel great. So I'm hoping it would be, like my note to Tom today was, it would be great if we just had a quick Zoom before Thanksgiving. But I don't know that. But I'd like to sort of get that ball rolling. And Amy was thinking that December would probably work. She does the finishing touches on seeing whether or not we're going to have both Bar Harbor and the MDIEA Support Staff Association together, though separate but still going together, and those agreements are the same the way they exist right now, or they're going to join together and just sort of be one. I think that's the one thing that she's still working on. But in any sense, we'd still work together as separate as we last year. It was two separate, even though they turned out the same. But they are going to work together regardless of
Whether they're in the same unit.
whether they're the same unit.
Okay, so if anyone's interested, they'll email Mike or they can. So, first readings of revisions to policy, EEDH, public comment at school board meetings and relations with law enforcement. And so we're just first reading and then we'll bring it back.
And so I wanted to share on the public comment at school board meetings. One of the things that the policy committee noticed is, as we were reading, our current policy states public participation at school board meetings. And I think that's misleading, because the way that the board functions is it's not a participation. It's not a back and forth. We're definitely there. You are there to actually to listen and to hear, and then investigate as appropriate, and taking that information and then possibly returning later to answer some of the questions or share something that was done based on comments, but we're really there just to sort of hear that feedback, and then we sort of take it from there. And part of the reason of that is, there's a lot of business that needs to get done at board meetings, and it's important to make sure that we're as efficient as possible. Take that information, if we need to respond to it at a later date, we can, or it might just become part of the decision-making process. And so when we asked for the Maine School Board Association to sort of share in the Maine school management, their model was the public public comment at school board meetings. And there's been a few changes in law that are represented there as well, in terms of who can speak and all of that. And so we wanted to make sure that we were, up to where we should be in terms of our policies, and to make sure that it's representing what we're asking the public to do when they come to board meetings.
I noticed in here that it says that we're making a change to say that people have to state where they're from. Are we allowing comment from people who aren't one of the member towns?
Yes.
Okay.
Part of that, one of the reasonings behind that is oftentimes you might have, family members from another community who might have, something to share that are in relations to those, and it seemed like it was, it would be good that you don't have to write them down, but at least to state where the.
Thank you.
I just want to share my appreciation to the policy committee because it's really tedious stuff. But I will say that I feel like the changes that you made to this particular policy are much more, I don't know, they're just user friendly. They feel less, I don't say the word, but like, I don't, I just feel like it's the old things that are crossed out are problematic in terms of how they might make someone feel if they're reading the policy. So I just really appreciate it.
Okay, so we'll bring this one back next meeting for a second reading and a vote.
And any thoughts or suggestions as you read through it, you can send them my way.
As a reminder, anyone can come to public policy committee. You don't feel like you can come. Anyone who wants to come from the board, come anytime.
And we can provide a Zoom link, so you can't come, but you want to zoom in, if you look at the agenda when it goes out and there's something that piques your interest. And you just say, hey, can I zoom in? We'll make sure that you're there. You'll be on the big screen. And then for relations with law enforcement, when we looked at our policy, and we actually had a discussion about this at one of the other boards. Right now, our current policies are a little bit confusing because we have an SRO, and there's an SRO policy, and then there was the law enforcement, and there was some confusion between the two.
Some definite
And some definite misalignment.
Yeah.
And so, after speaking with the folks at Maine School Management and within the policy committee, there's recognition that we already have a pretty solid MOU that defines the support that an SRO is supposed to provide within our schools that we have with the Bar Harbor Mount Desert Police Department. That lays out in pretty fine detail in terms of what their role is, expectations and trainings, and the other pieces seem to cloud that. And to remove that cloud, we were going to, it was going to be after we see support for just relations with law enforcement authorities. So those are just our normal police departments that come in that might interact with our schools, and what those procedures might be. And we wanted those clean and separate from the SRO. And so these would be new policies in terms of that relationship. It takes the SRO piece out of it because we got that covered with our MOU.
Any questions about that? Okay, we'll bring those back next time. We have no action items. Is there any other business? Okay, future agenda items, we'll have these policies, we'll have the budgets. Back, we'll have more updates on the vision of the graduate. What else? Okay, is there any public? Okay, next meetings, as a reminder, we're around to annual meeting time, so we'll have our regular meeting on Monday, the 9th December, probably at 6, but I'll wait, depending on the timing and agenda of the high school meeting. And then on Monday, the 16th, we have the very exciting annual meeting. You don't want to miss that. At 5:30 PM. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, sorry.
What's the difference between the regular and the annual?
The annual meeting's like our,
You get to eat cake.
it's a public meeting. I mean, this is a public meeting, but it's like we passed the budget. Yeah.
My final.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.